Genesis 11:1-4. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens, let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth.
The narrative transitions from the genealogies to the story of the Tower of Babel. All the people of the earth, who at this point share one language, settle in the land of Shinar. In their ambition, they decide to build a city with a tower reaching the heavens, hoping to make a name for themselves and prevent their dispersion across the earth.
Genesis 11:5-7. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, Indeed the people are one and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do, now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.
God perceives their ambitions and their unified efforts. Recognizing the potential of their unified will and communication, He decides to intervene, intending to confuse their language so they won't understand each other, thwarting their plans. As you reflect on this passage, consider the implications of human ambition, the importance of communication, and God's sovereignty over human endeavors. These themes will continue to play significant roles in the biblical narrative.
Genesis 11:8-9. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth.
In response to the people's ambition, God confuses their language, causing them to scatter over the earth, just as they had hoped to avoid. Their city, named Babel, stands as a monument to this event. The name Babel sounds like the Hebrew word for confuse, linking it directly to the confusion of languages. This narrative provides an etiological tale for the diversity of languages in the world and the dispersal of people across the earth.
Genesis 11:10-26. This is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. Followed by the genealogy leading up to Abram.
The narrative then returns to the genealogy of Shem, but this time with a specific focus leading to Abram, later known as Abraham. This genealogy serves as a bridge between the broad overview of humanity's early generations and the specific story of Abraham, who becomes a central figure in Genesis and the rest of the Bible. As you study these passages, consider the implications of the Tower of Babel narrative, the significance of the genealogies, and the themes of human ambition, divine intervention, and the unfolding of God's plan. Reflect on how these themes are developed in the subsequent narratives and the broader context of the Bible.
Genesis 11:27-30. This is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in his native land, in Ur of the Chaldeans. Then Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran the father of Milcah and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no child.
The genealogy continues, focusing on the family of Terah, who was the father of Abram. We learn that Abram's wife Sarai was barren, which is a significant detail as it sets the stage for future narratives. The barrenness of Sarai and the promise of descendants to Abram becomes one of the central themes in the life of Abram, who later becomes Abraham.
Genesis 11:31-32. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to Haran and dwelt there. So the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran.
Terah, with Abram, Sarai, and Lot, leaves Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. However, they settle in Haran, where Terah dies. This move sets the stage for God's call to Abram in the next chapter, which initiates the journey to the Promised Land. As you continue studying Genesis, consider the significant shifts in the narrative, from the broad scope of humanity's early generations to the specific story of Abram's family. Reflect on the themes of promise, faith, and divine intervention, which become central in the story of Abraham and his descendants. These themes provide a deeper understanding of the biblical narrative and God's unfolding plan.
Genesis 12:1-3. Now the Lord had said to Abram, "Get out of your country, from your family and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed."
This passage marks a significant turn in the book of Genesis. God calls Abram, promising to make him into a great nation and to bless him. God also establishes a covenant with Abram, indicating that all the families of the earth will be blessed through him. This promise is foundational to the entire narrative of the Bible, with Abram's descendants becoming the nation of Israel and, through Jesus, a blessing to all nations.
Genesis 12:4-5. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Then Abram took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan.
Abram, showing his faith and obedience, responds to God's call. At the age of 75, he leaves Haran, bringing his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all their possessions. They set out for Canaan, marking the beginning of a journey that shapes the history of the Israelites. As you reflect on these passages, consider the implications of Abram's call, the promise God makes to him, and his obedient response. These elements are fundamental to understanding the narrative of Genesis and the broader biblical story.
Genesis 12:6-9. Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh. And the Canaanites were then in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your descendants I will give this land." And there he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. So Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south.
Once in Canaan, Abram travels through the land. God appears to Abram, reaffirming the promise that this land will be given to his descendants. In response, Abram builds an altar to the Lord, demonstrating his faith and worship. As Abram continues his journey, he builds another altar and calls on the name of the Lord. These actions underscore Abram's relationship with God, marked by faith, obedience, and worship.
Genesis 12:10-13. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, "Indeed I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore it will happen, when the Egyptians see you, that they will say, 'This is his wife,' and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that I may live because of you."
A famine forces Abram to leave Canaan and travel to Egypt. Fearing for his life because of Sarai's beauty, he asks her to pose as his sister. This narrative introduces a pattern that recurs in Abram's story, revealing both his human frailty and God's faithfulness. As you continue studying these passages, consider how the narrative portrays Abram's faith, the challenges he faces, and the nature of God's promise. Reflect on the themes of faith, promise, and human struggle, and how they are developed in the narrative.
Genesis 12:14-20. So it was, when Abram came into Egypt, that the Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. The princes of Pharaoh also saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister'? I might have taken her as my wife. Now therefore, here is your wife, take her and go your way." So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, with his wife and all that he had.
Upon entering Egypt, Sarai, as anticipated by Abram, is taken to Pharaoh's house due to her beauty. Abram, for his part, benefits materially from this. However, God intervenes, sending plagues upon Pharaoh's household. Upon realizing that Sarai is Abram's wife, Pharaoh rebukes Abram for his deceit and sends him away, but not before Abram has accumulated significant wealth. This episode shows both God's providence and the moral complexity of Abram's actions. Abram's decision to deceive Pharaoh is questionable, yet God remains faithful to Abram, protecting him and Sarai and further enhancing Abram's wealth. As you continue studying, consider how this narrative shapes our understanding of Abram and his relationship with God. Reflect on the tension between human frailty and divine faithfulness, a theme that will continue to play out in Abram's story and throughout the Bible.